The house beneath the lake. They told stories about Lake Daggerwood long before the town was built around it. Stories that started as whispers and eventually became warnings. Never swim too close to the center, they said. There's a house down there, and it's waiting. Max Turner never cared for legends. He was a documentary filmmaker, skeptical, analytical. When he heard about the so-called Daggerwood curse, he smelled content. Viral potential. He packed his gear, brought along his friend and diver Charlie, and drove to the sleepy lakeside town of Whisper Pines. The town greeted them with closed blinds and forced smiles. When Max asked about the lake, the townsfolk just muttered, "The lake doesn't take strangers kindly." At the inn, the old woman at the counter slipped him a room key and whispered, "If you hear music after dark, lock your door and don't look outside." The first 2 days were uneventful. Max flew his drone over the lake, filmed some eerily calm water, and captured interviews with reluctant locals. But on the third night, the music came. Faint piano, echoing across the water like it was being played in a ballroom buried beneath the surface. Charlie laughed it off, called it hauntingly romantic, and convinced Max to record it. They set up microphones by the dock. The moment the music reached the recorder, the lake rippled violently, and then it stilled. Too still. The next morning, Charlie was gone. His bed untouched, but his wetsuit and camera were missing. Max checked the dock, no sign of him, but the boat was gone. Max played back the lake recording. At the end of the piano melody, there was a voice, faint, wet. It whispered, "He came home." Max took a canoe out to the center of the lake. That's when he saw it. Below the surface, beneath the shimmer, stood a house. A full Victorian manor, submerged entirely yet perfectly preserved. Lights flickered inside. He dove. The water wasn't cold. It was warm. Too warm. And as he swam closer, he saw curtains blowing inward from shattered windows, a chandelier swinging gently, and faces watching him from the glass, pale, bloated, unblinking. Inside the house, Charlie floated just above the foyer floor, eyes open, smiling. He mouthed words Max couldn't hear. Then, without warning, the front door creaked open. Max couldn't resist. He swam inside. The water vanished the moment he crossed the threshold. He stood in the foyer, completely dry. The house smelled of damp wood and forgotten memories. Portraits lined the walls, portraits of people from town, but they were wrong. In each, the person's face had been replaced with Max's. He turned around to leave. The lake was gone. Now he was inside and there were no doors. The piano began again, louder now, coming from upstairs. Max followed the sound. The staircase seemed endless, turning back on itself, going higher and higher until gravity felt confused. On the 5th floor, though the house only appeared to have 2 from the outside, he found a room where the walls bled. Thick red lines pulsed and ran down like sweat. Inside the room was a mirror. His reflection wasn't his. It was older, tired, drowning. It reached out and pulled him through. Now he was submerged again, but this time, inside the mirror. Everything inverted. The house decayed, warped. The piano played backwards, and the faces in the windows smiled wider, their mouths tearing at the corners. He ran. Every door led back to the same room, until finally a door opened to the lake. He swam toward the surface. Breaching the water, gasping, he found the canoe. The sun was rising. Back on land, the town was quiet, too quiet. Every person he met had the same face, his. He checked his reflection. It wasn't his anymore. He went back to the inn. The old woman at the desk looked up, and her eyes widened in horror. "You weren't supposed to come back." The lights never go out in Coldmarsh. It started with a single light. Coldmarsh was a forgotten mining town in northern Montana. No one lived there anymore. No power grid, no phone lines, no reason for lights to be on. And yet every night at exactly 3:13 a.m., a single house lit up at the edge of town. Bright, flickering, alive. Paranormal investigator Anna Wells had seen her share of strange cases. But Coldmarsh was different. The locals refused to talk about it. Her emails to the sheriff went unanswered. But the legend was clear. No one who entered the house on Pine Ridge Street ever came out. She arrived alone. The road ended before it reached the town. She hiked the last 2 miles, through fog thick as soup. The air smelled like rust and ash. The buildings leaned in, decaying, like they were whispering to one another. And at the edge of it all, the house stood, tall, pristine, and waiting. The front porch creaked. The door was open. Inside, the wallpaper was still fresh. The furniture untouched. A grandfather clock ticked steadily, its pendulum swinging backwards. Anna set up cameras, EMF sensors, digital recorders. The house didn't respond until 3:13 a.m. Then everything changed. All the lights came on at once, bright, blinding, and the clock struck 13. From upstairs came the sound of wet footsteps, not walking, dragging. Something was being pulled. She climbed the stairs. The hallway stretched. Rooms multiplied. Doors opened to impossible spaces. An orphanage dormitory, a collapsing church, a sunken hospital hallway. Places that should not fit inside a house. Each room held someone, frozen in place, mid-scream, mid-prayer, eyes wide, silent. And behind her, always just out of sight, came the dragging sound. She found a room filled with mirrors. Dozens of versions of herself stared back, but one was wrong. One bled from the eyes. That one smiled. A whisper came from behind the glass. "You're already in the film." She turned to leave. The hallway had changed. The walls pulsed like veins. The floor was warm and sticky. Voices now. They came from the walls, chanting something unintelligible but rhythmic. She recorded it. When played back, the chanting reversed into a message. "We are not dead. We are waiting." In the basement, she found the truth. Film reels. Hundreds of them. All labeled with names. Her name was already there. She played the reel. It showed her, walking into the house, setting up cameras, climbing stairs, exactly as she had done. But the footage didn't stop. It continued. It showed her being taken by something shadowed, long-limbed, faceless. She watched as her future was revealed. And then the film burned. Smoke filled the room. Laughter echoed from the shadows. Childlike, mocking. She ran. But the house didn't let her. Every door led deeper. Every window showed a different time, 1903, 1921, 1954. And in each, the same house stood, always waiting, always lit. Anna fell through a door that led to the attic. There, hanging from the rafters, were dozens of light bulbs, each filled with something dark, writhing. The lights were memories. She smashed one. A scream filled the room, not hers. A miner, trapped, buried, calling for his daughter. She smashed another. A girl, praying as something scratched at her window. Another, a family dinner, everyone frozen, except one person blinking in terror, unable to speak as shadows formed behind them. Each light was a soul, and they were trapped. One light flickered violently, her own. Before she could reach it, the floor gave way. She woke up outside. Morning. The town was silent, her gear gone, no sign of the house. But every night at 3:13 a.m., her apartment light now flickers the same way. The film reel appears on her desk every morning. And each night she dreams of the attic again, the lights, the screaming, and her own voice whispering, "We are not dead, we are waiting." Jonathan Reed's obsession with ghost towns had led him into places most wouldn't dare enter. But Holleridge wasn't just forgotten, it was erased. No official records, no roads, no satellite images. Yet it existed. A librarian in Albany had slipped him a photo marked Holleridge, 1977. Everyone in the picture was smiling, but their eyes were scratched out. Not digitally, physically, like someone didn't want them to be remembered. And in the back of the photo, written in a shaky hand, "Never let the mirror face the west." The GPS lost signal as soon as Jonathan passed mile marker 66. The road twisted into trees so dense, daylight itself seemed unwelcome. Crows circled above as if escorting him in. Then the town appeared, abruptly. No welcome sign. Just buildings, too perfect, too preserved, like they'd never aged. Dusty mannequins stood behind broken shop windows. And silence pressed in like a weight. His camera caught it all. But something strange happened. In the playback, he wasn't there. Only the town, as if it were watching itself. He found a hotel at the town center, the Westgate Inn. No lights, but the chandelier was swinging. Jonathan entered with his flashlight. The front desk had a guest log open, dated today's date, and his name already signed. No one was behind him. He flipped the page. One word was scribbled over and over: remember. Room 306 was unlocked. Inside, a single mirror stood across the bed. He looked into it. His reflection didn't match. He smiled. His reflection did not. Instead, it leaned forward, raised a finger, and shushed him. He stumbled back, but the reflection stepped through the glass. That night, he dreamt of a woman dragging her skin behind her like a gown, whispering names backwards. He woke up bleeding from the mouth. The mirror was gone. Jonathan discovered tapes in the hotel basement, labeled Subjects 1-33. They showed people in rooms like his talking to mirrors, weeping, screaming. Then suddenly, forgetting who they were. In the last tape, a child said, "Mommy went into the mirror. She's stuck now. But sometimes she comes out when I sleep." The screen flickered, and a woman's face pressed against the lens from the other side, eyes hollow, jaw broken, whispering, "Jonathan, come join us." He dropped the tape. His name was never on the log before today. How did she know it? A massive mirror stood in the town's chapel, cracked but pulsing, as if breathing. Jonathan's reflection no longer mirrored him. It was older, eyes stitched shut. It pointed behind him. He turned, and the townspeople were there. Dozens. Silent, their mouths sewn. All of them looked like they'd walked out of fire, except one, taller, burned black, with no eyes, no lips, the forgotten one. It opened its mouth. From within came a voice, his mother's, "Don't forget me again." Then the mirror sucked him in. Inside was Hollow Ridge inverted. Skies were ash, buildings floated. And every time Jonathan thought a direction, it changed. People were trapped in mirrors, screaming versions of themselves. He found himself, too, being dissected by reflections in lab coats. He screamed to wake up. One of the surgeons leaned close and said, "You already did." Jonathan smashed a mirror and ran through the shards. He fell into the hotel room again. Morning light. Silence. Was it over? His camera was on the bed, playing footage he didn't shoot. In the footage, he stands at the edge of town and whispers, "It only ends if someone else comes in." 1 year later, a new YouTube video goes viral. A vlogger finds an unknown town, Hollow Ridge. He laughs off the warnings in the comments. Final frame of the video, he looks into a mirror, smiles, but the reflection does not. And in a reversed, layered voice, it says, "We remember now."